My wife spent months secretly planning to divorce me and steal my assets. So I used her own exit strategy to protect everything. Now she is broke and begging to reconcile while I am starting over on my own terms. I've always been a gut-feeling kind of guy, and for the last 3 months, my gut has been screaming at me that my house was haunted by a woman who looked like my wife, but wanted me financially dead. My wife Claire and I have been married for 12 years. We have a beautiful home, 2 kids, and a joint portfolio that I spent a decade building from the ground up through 80-hour work weeks. I'm a software architect. She's a high-end realtor. We were a power couple. Or so I thought. The change in her was subtle, like a slow-acting poison. It started with her changing the passcode on her phone, something she'd never done in a decade of marriage. Then came the girls' weekends that seemed to happen every other week, always in cities where she happened to have old friends. But the real clincher, the moment my life changed forever, was the day I found a hidden folder on our shared home server labeled Project Freedom. I'm a tech guy. You don't hide folders from me on my own network. I opened it, expecting maybe some surprise party plans, but what I found was a digital blueprint for my own destruction. There were scans of my private bank statements, a list of my individual stocks, and a spreadsheet calculating the exact value of our house equity down to the cent. But the most chilling document was a PDF titled Exit Strategy. It was a step-by-step guide from a high-priced shark divorce attorney on how to freeze marital assets and drain the husband before he even knows what hit him. Claire wasn't just thinking about leaving. She was planning to strip mine my life, take the kids, and leave me with nothing but the clothes on my back. She had even mapped out how to move her own commissions into a private account I didn't know existed. The betrayal was so deep I felt physically sick, but I didn't confront her. In my world, if you show your hand too early, you lose everything. I spent the next 2 weeks in a state of controlled panic. I called my own attorney, a guy who makes the devil look like a saint. He told me that since a large portion of our initial capital came from an inheritance I received before the marriage, I had a window of opportunity to protect it if I moved with surgical precision. I didn't hide the money. That's a rookie mistake that gets you crushed in court. But I shifted it. I moved my premarital assets into a protected, irrevocable trust for my children that Claire couldn't touch without a court order from a judge she'd never meet. I liquidated my personal crypto and moved it to a cold wallet. I even sold my vintage car collection to my brother for $1, with a bulletproof legal buyback agreement. I made myself look as poor as possible on paper while staying strictly within the lines of the law. 2 weeks later, the trap was finally sprung. I came home from work on a Tuesday, and the house was eerily quiet. The kids were at her mother's. Claire was sitting at the dining room table, a single glass of expensive wine in front of her, and a thick, yellow envelope. She didn't look sad. She didn't look like a woman losing a partner. She looked triumphant. She looked like she had already won. "We're done, Mark," she said, her voice cold, rehearsed, and utterly devoid of emotion. "I've filed for divorce. I've already contacted the bank to freeze our joint accounts, and my lawyer is filing a motion tomorrow for me to keep the house and the majority of the portfolio. You have 1 hour to pack a bag and leave." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I just nodded slowly and said, "I figured this was coming." Her face fell for a split second. She expected me to beg. She wanted to see me broken on the floor. I walked upstairs, packed my pre-prepared suitcase, and left without looking back. For the next 3 days, my phone was silent. I knew she was waiting for me to realize the freeze was in place. I knew she was waiting for that frantic 2 a.m. call asking how I was going to pay for a hotel or a meal. I knew she was waiting for me to find out that my cards were declined. That call never came. Instead, the call came from her. On Friday morning, I picked up the phone to the sound of Claire screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Where is the money, Mark? Where is the inheritance account? Why is the joint savings down to $5,000? What did you do to our life?" She was hysterical. The predator had realized the prey was gone. "I didn't do anything illegal, Claire," I said, leaning back in the chair of my new, quiet apartment. "I just followed the advice in your Project Freedom folder. I decided to get a head start on my own freedom. If you wanted half of everything, you should have tried being a partner instead of a predator. You wanted a war, but you forgot that I'm the one who built the battlefield. You forgot that I can see every bite of daddy that moves through this house." The fallout has been glorious. Because she filed the papers first, thinking she had the absolute upper hand, she's now stuck in a legal nightmare where she's trying to claim assets that are legally tucked away in a trust for her own children. A trust she can't touch without admitting in open court that she was trying to defraud the marriage from the start. Her Project Freedom documents were subpoenaed by my lawyer, proving she had premeditated intent to hide assets and act in bad faith. The judge looked at those documents and then looked at her like she was something he'd stepped in on the sidewalk. It's been a month since that day, and she's finally realized her high-priced lawyer can't save her from her own greed. She called me last night, sobbing, saying she made a huge mistake and that we should try therapy for the sake of the children. I told her that therapy is for people who want to save a marriage, not for people who get caught trying to rob it. I'm currently sitting on a beach, taking a much-needed sanity break, funded by the very account she tried to steal. She's stuck in a house she can't afford the mortgage on. Her friends have gone silent now that she's not the rich realtor anymore, and her lawyer is asking for a second retainer she no longer has the funds to pay. To anyone listening, your partner is either your teammate or your most dangerous enemy. If your gut tells you they are planning an exit, don't wait for the papers to serve you. Protect yourself, protect your future, and remember that being the bigger person doesn't mean letting yourself be destroyed. Because when the exit strategy begins, there are no friends, only those who prepared and those who got left behind. I refuse to be a victim in my own life story. I lost a wife, but I saved my future.